mentioned the 2020 season there. I mean, that was a hugely special season for Tipperary for more than one reason and everything else. And you obviously win the Munster title on the anniversary, of course, of Bloody Sunday. And, I mean, a special season. I mean, how do you sort of look back on it all now, 2 years later?
It's kind of hard to believe that the 2 years have come and gone. Like it's just great. I mean, listen, the memories will live forever. Like there's no doubt about that. It was just a fantastic year. Like I don't think any of us knew what we were getting ourselves in for when kind of 2020 struck us. Like people forget that we actually had to go back and play 2 rounds of the league before that championship kicked off because they never got played. And believe it or not, that was probably those 2 victories over. It was Leitrim and Offaly. I actually think those two victories actually probably kick-started our campaign because we were out in championship the following week against Clare. So, but listen, it was a fantastic year. Like, I mean, it was the stuff of dreams, really. We've been waiting for so long to try and win Munster, and for a long time you thought it would never come, but there's some part you always believed. And like, if I'm being honest, I sensed something at the beginning of the lockdown. I said it to a manager or even a coach at the time, and I just said, like, there's something in the air here. I just feel like some team could come out of nowhere here and cause an upset or two. And like, how right I was. And we weren't the only ones, Cavan as well up in Ulster. So yeah, it was just incredible. Like I said, for a long time it looked like it might never happen, but for it to actually happen, then it was just incredible. Just relief was probably the first feeling that you got on the field that day, but after that, then it was just sheer enjoyment and just great scenes, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned there, like with 2020, like it was sort of a bizarre year, like, and you'd so many surprises, shocks, all the rest. So, I mean, you'd plenty of reason really to believe that, anything crazy could sort of happen. And obviously you're on that side of the draw, sort of avoiding Kerry and Cork,
Yeah.
Not to discredit Ayr or Limerick or anything like that. But I think, you obviously want to avoid Kerry anyway. I think every side of Munster does.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. I mean, that year you just kind of felt like, listen, we were probably on the more favourable side of the draw. So I suppose in a way it was in our own hands. We kind of felt, look, we could get to a final at the very least, and then I suppose we had beaten Limerick in the semi-final on the Saturday evening, and then you're at home on the couch on the Sunday and you're watching Kerry and Cork, and all of a sudden Cork take out Kerry, and then you just start to kind of go, okay, hold on a minute now, like, this is definitely it's in our own hands here, and if we prepare well enough over the next 2 weeks, we have every chance of winning this match. And that's how it panned out, thankfully.
And even in that, like, sort of game going in against Cork, like, I mean, what was the preparation like, sort of leading into that Munster final? They'd obviously come off the back of beating Kerry, and I think most people had them as overwhelming favourites. I think mostly because of the fact that they just knocked out Kerry, who are sort of the dominant side really in Munster. So what was the preparation like and the build up like leading into that Munster final?
Yeah, like, look, the preparation was top class, and it had to be because our biggest downfall sometimes is just is ourselves, and we just kind of maybe don't perform sometimes, or we just don't maybe prepare as well as we should have. But we left no stone unturned in that 2-week period because we knew that this was our one opportunity and we weren't going to leave it behind. So preparation was just as good as I've ever seen it. And to be honest with you, it was mostly player driven, because at the end of the day, we were the guys in the field that had to do the business. So yeah, it was perfect. I mean, listen, there was nothing else going on in our lives at that time. It was just maybe getting out to training, and that was it, and just making sure that you were doing everything right. And we certainly did. And even our preparation on the day, like, you knew in the warm-up, even when you looked at the opposition, you just knew we had them. Like, and I knew we were probably going to win that game after about 30 seconds. I think, Colin won the ball out in the midfield, kicked it into me. I was out, won a mark and popped it over, and we were just thinking, we're on it here today, and we never looked back after that. And look, Cork were overwhelming favourites, I suppose, and like you said, they probably were because they had just taken out Kerry. But I suppose if you'd stripped it back a little bit and you dug a little bit deeper, recent matches between ourselves and Cork, like we've discussed just there previously, there wasn't much between the two teams at any given day. So The odds should have been a little bit shorter, but look, it was all playing into our hands as far as we were concerned. You know what I mean? Everyone was talking up, look, it's Cork's to lose, and they've beaten Kerry, so they should handle Tip, and that was fine for us. We just kind of went about our work quietly, and we were just delivered a real professional performance on the day. And I just thought we wanted the game. We wanted the game a little bit more than they did on the day, and thankfully we did, because we came out on the outside of it for a change.
Yeah, like I remember watching the game and even thinking like it did look, although Cork did narrow the gap at different times and everything else, like it did look relatively comfortable at times. Like even sort of towards the end of the game, there didn't seem to be a huge sort of moment or any panic sort of at the back or anything like that or anything of that nature. And probably did show like your maturity as a group and maybe the fact that you had that experience in 2016 probably really stood to you, I'd imagine, in this Munster final.
Yeah, possibly. And listen, Cork are a great side. They've beaten us as many times as we've beaten them, and if we play it again tomorrow, I don't know what way it will go. But we just really wanted it. It was only our second ever Munster final appearance. We hadn't won a Munster title in 85 years. You didn't have to dig too deep for motivation. A lot of people were asking me, what is your motivation? You're kind of going, hold on a second, we've been starved here. You know what I mean? We haven't won a Munster title. No player in Tipperary was alive that had won a Munster title. So that's how long it's been. And like I said, we didn't have to dig too deep for motivation. Our preparation was top class. And I just thought our attitude on the day itself, just working really hard and doing the basics, and we just played a really good brand of football that day, and it suited us. And like I said, just sheer relief that we came out on the right side of it. And yeah, it was one of the best days now on a sporting field that I've ever had. So it was fantastic.
Yeah, and obviously as you mentioned there, like in terms of it being COVID and everything else, sort of empty stadiums. I mean, did it feel strange sort of walking out onto the pitch like in a Munster final? Like usually you'd obviously have that carnival atmosphere.
Yeah,
You'd sort of be doing the march around the pitch, like obviously with the band and everything else. So how did it feel like in an empty stadium? Like obviously when the final whistle blows, I'm sure it doesn't matter at all, like in that
yeah.
moment. But like even sort of leading into the game, like with an empty stadium. Like I'd say, like most footballers, fans, everything else, like it was a very, very strange time for everyone.
That was. There's no doubt about it. But you know what? You just get on with it. Like, you just, after a few minutes, you're so focused on what you're doing in the field, you just don't take any notice. Now, like for league matches with Tipperary, you wouldn't get too much of a crowd anyway. So it's not something that would really affect our performance per se. But you would notice the silence. Like, you could hear members of management speaking, and you could hear the subs very clearly shouting from the dugouts and the stands. That's not something you would really be familiar with on a normal season, because there'd be just that extra bit of noise. But do you know what, Aaron? It didn't make a whole pile of a difference. You're just in the zone and you just get on with things. And like, even afterwards, I know there was no one there, and in a strange way, it was kind of nice, because it just made it so much more intimate for the players ourselves. Like, we didn't have to be dealing with anyone or talking to anyone else. It was just literally players, management, and a few others, and that was it. You could really soak it in and appreciate the space around you and just enjoy it to the max without being flooded by people, which obviously would have been class as well, don't get me wrong. But we kind of made the best out of a bad situation, really. So yeah, it was grand. You just got on with it, really. Like, it's gas. We couldn't have delayed leaving Parky Queeve any more than we did. Like, we just didn't want to leave, because we were all going home separately, and we were all driving home separately and going home to our own homes. So like, we were literally just hanging around the dressing room. We got pizzas delivered, and just having the crack and soaking it in. And that was probably one of the most enjoyable parts about it all, because like I said, it was just us, just our management, just our group. So that was nice, to be fair.
Yeah, and being the captain obviously as well, walking up the steps to lift obviously the Munster title. Like what's sort of running through your head at that time, like when you're walking up the steps, getting ready
Yeah,
to lift Tipperary's first Munster title since 1935. Like it's a very, very rare occurrence for most
yeah.
people. As you said, no one else alive, would have experienced that previously. So
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Like, it's probably, actually, look, it's up there with one of my top sporting moments. I mean, to win a Munster title was always the dream for me growing up, but to captain Tipperary too, it was just, was an incredible achievement. It's something I'm extremely proud of, and I'd love to get that experience again and experience what that feels like one more time. It's like a drug. This winning crack is just, it's addictive. You know what I mean? You get a taste and you want more. But I suppose that particular day was just about composing myself. I'd no speech prepared. I didn't even think about it, to be honest with you. It was just going to be off the cuff, and it was. And I left out a few bits here and there. But listen, it's just about composure and enjoying it. Like, they wanted me to go up straight away. There was lads there from the Munster Council pulling at you to go over. And I remember just turning to them and goes, listen, lads, will you just let me enjoy this for a few minutes? I'll be over in a few minutes. Just give me a bit of time here. And to be fair, they did. And because I waited so long. You just wanted to meet the boys and hug the lads and just soak it all in. And going up into the stand and making the speech to, a small handful of people down at the pitch, again, was a little bit strange, but there was something nice about it as well. And it's just one of those moments that I'll take to the grave for sure. It's one of my proudest ones now.